Okay, so this is our Robolab demo, and so you probably turn your computer and it's logged into the student account, and we're going to go in here to Robolab, and this is a single click on the dock, one click, not a double click, and launch Robolab. And to get started, if you've not done this before, for part one here, we're going to do the pilot stuff just as an explanation of what's going on. And I'm going to start off with pilots 1 through 4, but when it comes time for you to do programming here in part 2, I'm going to show you the inventor section, and you will use inventor 2 to do your programming. But just to get started here for part 1, I'm going to do the pilots and sort of walk you through all the concepts and things that you need to know and see in order to make this work. So we're going to go up here to pilot 1, and here is pilot 1. And so as you can imagine, if you've done or seen anything about programming before, usually programming is lots of cryptic commands line by line. Everything you see in a computer is a result of a program. Your cars have programs, microwave have programs, cell phones have programs. Programming is everywhere, and so it's a kind of a neat thing to get into if you have the inclination, because there's a lot of career opportunities for you if you can get into that. Computers like to know where the beginning and the end is. We have the beginning right here, the green light, and then we have an indicator of where the end of the program is by the red light. And our program is the little code in between. And we're not writing code like you might normally do for computer programming, but we're using symbols. We're using icons to represent different actions and things on our RCX. And so as you could guess, this is a motor. It's a motor that's spinning clockwise, and this motor is plugged into port A. Okay, it's plugged into port A, and then we have a timer here, and this is you can tell it looks like a watch, and it's 4S, as in 4 seconds. Can you guess what this is going to be? What this program is going to do if I put this in my RCX? Okay, if you guess that if I hit run and the motor's going to run for 4 seconds and then stop, that's right. But I need to put this program in my RCX, and to do that, I'm going to use this big white arrow right here. And it uploads, and notice I get feedback on the screen of what program on the RCX it uploads to. And so now I'm going to hook up a motor into port A and run the program. We're going to see this run here, and I put a little bracket on the motor here so you can see this running in the program here in the video camera. So if I hit run here, and this is going to run for 4 seconds, you'll see, and then stop. Okay, no big deal, right? Okay, and it's simple enough. And notice the stuff it reads this way. So what we have here is a control. Excuse me, a function. What we have here is a function that tells us what's going on, and then a control that tells us how long to do that. And once we meet the 4-second condition, we move on to the next thing. In this case, the next thing is the end of the program, and so it's no big deal. So I'm going to go back, and we're going to go to pilot 2, and here we have a motor that's on port A going clockwise. We can motor go in that direction, and then we have a light, and that is just a light that, and some of you have those in your kits, but most of you don't, and that is in port C, and we're going to put that in port C on our NXT here, or RCX I should say, and we have a new condition. So we're going to run this. We're going to do this until this. Okay, until we meet this condition. What is this? This is a touch sensor. So I'm going to put that touch sensor on the robot, and it goes into port 1. And so I'm going to hit run. It's going to do this until I push the button, and it's going to go to the next thing, and the next thing is the end of the program. If I go and run this right now, it's not going to work. I need to upload this. You got to remember that every time you make a change in the programming, you have to upload that change to your robot. So now I'm going to press the white arrow. I get the upload feedback telling me where the program is, and I've already added the components that I need. Okay, pay attention to the motor, and we're going to have this light turn on. Okay, and I'm going to hit, oops. I've already got the components put in. We have the the light put in place here, and we've got my motor still plugged in from last time, and now I've got a touch sensor right there. So now I'm going to hit run. The light comes on, motor's running. Okay, and it's going to run for longer than 4 seconds because now it's doing this touch sensor. And I press the touch sensor and it stops. Easy as pie. Okay, you may have noticed these numbers down here. This is 3 and 5, okay, and it's not 3 seconds or 5 seconds. There was no timer set up on this, and we already know from the previous program if we want a timer, we could put a timer in the program right here. These are not program slots; they are in fact voltage. It's power. We have a we can adjust the amount of power that we give the outputs on A, B, and C, and we can, if I click on this, you can see I get a range of power from 1 being the minimum amount of power to 5 being the most amount of power we have. And I could change this, so I could make this, all kinds of stuff. That might be important for you to know. If your robot's running too fast, you can change the speed. But also know that if there's no power identified on here, it would default to full power. The program in the RCX would just go full power if you don't tell it anything. And so most of the time your robots are just going to go full power. You don't need to do that. You don't need to tag everything power 5. You could just leave it blank. You could just leave it blank and it would automatically go to the full power. But if you need to adjust it down a little bit, you can add and we'll add the power tags, and we'll show you how to do that. Now I'm going to go to pilot 3, and this is going to get a little more sophisticated. Okay, we're moving up here, and we've got now a much longer program. But if we break it down, just simply, if I'm going to zoom in here, just look at this part. I've got a motor on port A, I've got a light on port B, and a motor on port C. And this is all going to run for 6 seconds. Okay, and then I go to the other program, the other step, and I've got, after 6 seconds, the directions on the motor's changed, and then that all goes until I hit the button. Notice how we're clockwise here on port A and counterclockwise on port A after 6 seconds. So you'll see a switch. You'll hear a switch in the directions of the motors. 6 seconds, it does this. We have instructions and a control, and notice this all constitutes a group, a step, and then we're going to move on to the next step. We have instructions here and then a control. Okay, and if I program this in to my robot, okay, there again we get the upload, we get feedback that tells us where that is. You want to make sure you look at that feedback to know where your program is going on your RCX, so you know how to do that. And now I'm back to my, I didn't have any new equipment. I did move the light sensor, and we don't need to have a second motor for this demonstration. I just have the one motor and the touch sensor still. But notice, I want you to watch and count for 6 seconds here, and watch what happens. The motor will change. And so if I hit run, notice the light's on, the motor's going. Okay. Okay, and maybe you saw a little pause or heard a change. The motor switched directions, and now when I press, it stops. Notice that when I press the button in the first 6 seconds, the touch sensor has no effect. It's only after we pass that 6 seconds do we enter the next step where the button will take effect. Okay, so and like before, I could change the amount of power, but you should know also that when you're programming, you need to make subtle changes to your program, you shouldn't have to delete out icons and stuff. We can click on icons and right click and do a replace. So if I need to change this 6 seconds to 4 seconds, that's easily done. If I can change the direction of this motor to go the other way, that's easily done also. You don't have to delete out icons and do stuff. You'll be able to just make minor changes to your program as you go. Again, we've got instructions and a control. Instructions, control. This is one giant step. This is another step in the program, and I'm going to refer back to steps in a little bit. So I'm going to go back. I'm not going to save that right now. I'm going to go to Pilot 4. And oh, I'm missing something here. I'm missing my red light. This program, Pilot 4, is accentuating the whole idea of steps. I've got instructions and a control, and then we go on to the next step. And if I click that arrow, we go on to the next step here. I've got new instructions and a different control. If you recall from your inventory, that is a light sensor. And I'm going to put my light sensor on my RCX here and add that. And so if I read this properly, it's going to run this program until the amount of light that is coming into the sensor exceeds 55, and it probably does this on a scale of 100. And so if we get up up over half of that light input, it'll move on to the next. It will meet this condition and move on to the next thing, and next thing is the end of the program. So here, notice that the motors are changing direction just like in Pilot 3, and instead of being a timer, I have a button push condition that I got to meet here. So let's see how this runs. I'm going to upload this to my RCX. I'm going to hit run. Motor's going, and when I press the button, okay, the motor reversed, and if I point this at the window to where it's going to get a bunch of light, it stopped. Now you could probably hear it stop. It was probably out of frame. I'm going to do that again. So there, the motor's running. If I press the button, you'll hear it and maybe be able to see it change direction. Oh, we're still too much light. What happened there was it just stopped because I met that lighting condition. Let's try this again. There. And now if I turn this, it's going to get more light. There it went. And you see it's sensing the light from the window over there. Okay, and so that's how we make the light sensor work. And that's basic programming. Now we're going to take some of the things we know how to do and start thinking about what it is we're going to be able to do with our robot.